What kind of world? That's the question we're asking, right?
Yeah. And we were thinking about a title, and you were thinking, what
What a world.
What a world.
Like, what a world.
Yeah. And I was thinking about it, that makes sense, that kind of title, because you can go either way with that. What a world, great world, what a world. Oh my goodness, what's happening? But then I'm a teacher, and I'm constantly thinking about how do you get kids to be kind to each other. So it made sense to me to put in what kind of world, because that's what I think we're wanting to think about with the topics that we're going to talk about is how do we help in a small way to make the world a kinder place? How are we kind to other people? What does it mean to be kind to other people? How are we kind to different people who have different goals? So there's a lot to...
So what kind of world?
Yeah.
That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
So this thinking about what kind of world was really, it was prompted by our recent trip to Poland. Mm-hmm. So it was just a holiday that we were on to Krakow, which is a lovely city in the kind of south of Poland. An old city.
Yes, we were staying just right by the old Jewish quarter.
Yeah, so we were staying right in the middle of the kind of old part of the city. So wonderful for all the kind of nightlife and
Could walk to most of the big things to see and do in Krakow. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was great, but it is also part of the story for Oskar Schindler is that his factory was in Krakow. Mm-hmm. And so we went and visited the factory while we were there. And then it's only, an hour and a half, something like that, from the center of Krakow.
I know.
I think different ways of pronouncing it, to Auschwitz-Birkenau, to the biggest of the concentration camps from the Second World War.
Yeah, and it's kind of the one everyone thinks of, isn't it?
Yeah.
There were huge numbers of camps, but Auschwitz is the name everyone recognizes.
Yeah, the iconic kind of image of the railway line going up to the gatehouse to the Birkenau camp is probably the kind of synonymous image that you have when you're thinking about
because the trains went in through that gate. And I hadn't realized it was actually a complex of camps. I hadn't realized that it was Auschwitz was one site. And then, of course, when we went, you had to take a bus, short way to get to Birkenau. And I think there was even another camp as well that we didn't go see. But it was a complex. It wasn't just one place.
Yeah, as it had grown over time and developed.
Yeah.
So we had a day that we spent at Auschwitz-Birkenau with a guide that took us around, but on the way to Auschwitz, when we were in the car, we were driving there. As we usually do, we put on something, and it's nearly always
a podcast
of some
with
kind.
a political slant.
Yeah. But it was we were listening to a video.
Yeah, Mehdi Hassan doing. Is it
Jubilee?
Jubilee, right?
Is the kind of company that organize these kind of debates online usually with one person who's kind of in the center of a ring of other people.
The hot seat.
The hot seat, indeed. And I've seen maybe. Not many, 3 or 4 of them.
I think I've just seen clips from different ones. I've not really seen one all the way through.
Yeah. But I'd heard that Mehdi Hassan, who's a British American journalist, was doing one of these, and I'd heard about it because another YouTuber Sam Cedar had been on one earlier in the year, and we had watched that one.
Or parts of it, anyway. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think Sam had encouraged Mehdi to do this.
To go on it.
Yeah, thinking, well, I did it, and, it's a way of engaging with different viewpoints and trying to help people, understand.
And we aren't really talking across the political divide very much these days, are we?
Yeah.
It's very hard.
Exactly. So I was interested to hear it. So we put it on.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
it was
wow.
just, yeah.
It was mad.
It's really sad, actually. It just made me really sad.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just Republicans, or, because Mehdi Hassan would be progressive. It wasn't just kind of conservative Republicans. They were far right. And that's what it was billed as. But they weren't, they were actually into, they kind of, one guy proudly proclaimed that he was a fascist, and then the crowd was... I've
got that here, so we could maybe just put a bit of that on in case you haven't seen it or heard what was said. So the kind of premise of it is that somebody will the person that's in the center, in the hot seat in the middle, will have a premise. Like some kind of
yes, he had like four or five points, didn't he? That he was arguing.
Yeah, so because it's like a debate. So so he's bringing his point, and then others can take the opposing seat, and they can speak until they're voted off by a certain number of red flags going up from those around.
And then someone will take their place if they think they can make a better argument.
Yeah, exactly. So here's a part of this. So this is labelled, it's titled by Jubilee, 1 progressive versus 20 far-right conservatives. And it should be said, these are all young folks predominantly. These are younger people. Yeah. And this is one of the folks. I'm just jumping in here into, I can't remember quite where I am in the video, but we'll kind of let it play a bit, and because it gets interesting. Here we go.
Are people who happen to not be white, who do actually have history in this country and have roots in this country. For instance, from the Mexican-American War, we subsumed a lot of territory of people who have far stakes in this country who happen to be Hispanic or what have you. I'm for defending the traditional demographics of this country, which is majority white, and should stay that way.
How does the United States, we've gone so off topic, but how does the United States look like under you? Sorry, what's your name?
My name is, my name's Connor. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Took a little bit of a doubt there.
I use a pseudonym online, fair enough.
How would Connor's America look? What would it look like?
Well, quite frankly, I think we would deport people who shouldn't be here.
I didn't ask about deporting. What does the government look like?
What does the government look like?
Yeah.
I would say, quite frankly, it's under a sort of benevolent leader, such as
Where does he
Franco.
come from?
It could be a kind of aristocratic class. Could be someone
who picks the autocrat?
Frankly, the people. We could hold a vote on it. Kings were
isn't that democracy?
Well, sure. You can have a vote to get to that stage.
And then no more votes afterwards?
Absolutely.
Wow.
100%.
Wow. And if that autocrat kills you and your family, you're fine with that?
Well, I'm not going to be a part of the group that he kills, because that's the whole thing.
How do you know?
Autocrats
tend to kill everyone, even their own supporters.
Carl Schmitt makes this point very well in his work. It's the friend-enemy distinction, right?
Carl Schmitt, the Nazi theoretician.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't care.
Are you a fan of the Nazis?
I frankly don't care being called a Nazi at all.
I didn't say that. I didn't actually say that. I said, are you a fan of the Nazis?
Well, they persecuted the church a little bit. I'm not a fan of that. But
what about the persecution of the Jews?
Well, I certainly don't support anyone's human dignity being assaulted. I'm a Catholic.
But you don't condemn Nazi persecution of the Jews?
I think that there was a little bit of persecution and stuff like that, which is bad.
We may have to rename this show because you're a little bit more than a far-right Republican.
Hey, what can I say?
I think you could say, I'm a fascist.
Yeah, I am. Absolutely.
I'm just checking who's clapping just to get my set of where everyone is on this. Because you know that millions of people are going to be watching you on YouTube and checking out who the fascists and the Nazis are.
I'm not ashamed of that whatsoever.
No, clearly you're not.
During the pre-war period, prior to World War II, it was only those parties that properly enacted the people's will. That's why they won. The conservatives were fat cats. They were aristocrats. They didn't care.
Are you in favor of killing people who aren't like you?
Quite frankly, I'm not.
You mentioned Franco earlier. Franco killed a lot of innocent people.
Oh, well, he killed communists. He killed people who raped nuns and killed priests.
What about children who he killed and women who he killed?
What are you talking about? He never killed any women or children. He was Catholic,
He only killed combatants. Is that what you're claiming?
Yeah, he only killed combatants.
Never killed any innocent people.
The White Terror was only punishing those people who did acts of terrorism. And again, are you supporting like raping innocent women? Nuns, dude. Killing priests? I mean, priests don't brandish guns and kill people.
You just refuse to condemn the Nazi Holocaust, my friend. I don't think you're in a position to ask anyone any questions.
I quite frankly don't care what you think about me. If I'm a Nazi and being a Nazi,
feeling is mutual.
And being a Nazi means upholding human dignity, because I even believe in your dignity. I don't. In a state that I was running, I wouldn't want to hurt you or anything.
Let's stop it there, shall we? I think that you get the point, right? Oh yeah. So we'd actually just been listening, I mean, and not fully understanding where this show was going. And now it's come out subsequently that Mehdi Hassan was basically hijacked,
blindsided
in this. So it wasn't who he thought he was going to be talking about, and because these are extremist folks that are being given
a platform.
Yeah, they've been given a voice here to express what are clearly
really scary ideas.
Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, it's just the way these things sometimes work. So we had literally been listening to that whole conversation while we were driving to visit Auschwitz-Birkenau. So that kind of put things in perspective. Going to see a historical site where horrendous atrocities took place by a fascist movement, by the Nazi party, and all of those associated with it. And here we have voices trying to reclaim that kind of ideology.
Yes, well, it was interesting when kind of Mehdi asked him if he would be okay if he was killed by a fascist regime. And he said, oh, well, I'm not going to be one of the ones that are being killed. So he was acknowledging that some people were going to be killed. He just was going to be okay.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've got mine. I don't really care about you and yours. And of course, our guide going through was really, really good. But interestingly, she was Polish, not Jewish, but she'd had two uncles who died in Auschwitz because they were part of the Polish resistance. So of course, the camps were for political prisoners, they were for Roma, they were for Jehovah's Witnesses, they were for travelers, along with the Jews, although predominantly, the vast majority of people that were killed were Jews. But yes, fascist regimes will pick a scapegoat, but it's not just one scapegoat, isn't it? It's broader than that. Yeah. But this guy's aware of that. He was
fully aware of that. And when some of the most in this whole debate, there were other folks that spoke, of course, as part of it, and some of the most vile parts of the conversation got a round of applause from other people around it, which really. And there were a couple of people who they would go, and they were obviously, what am I doing here?
I don't
this
agree
is not
with
what
this.
I thought was going to happen.
But when he was speaking, the girl,
somebody,
you could see she was having second thoughts.
But that wasn't the case for all.
No.
Now this guy is called Connor Estelle, and I believe after this took place, that it was reported that he had lost his job.
Yes, of course. I read that he hadn't actually lost his job as a result of this. He'd lost it back in February. And so when he set up the GoFundMe saying he'd lost his job because of this, and then is getting lots of donations, which is another pretty depressing thing that actually I think wasn't true. It was just a bit of a grift. He'd already lost his job. Although I guess we should maybe fact check that. But that's what I'd read.
Right. Yeah, I just had read that he'd lost his job, which would be understandable, that would have taken place. Do you remember there was another guy that spoke, and that was, unbelievable racist views that he was, and saying so Mehdi Hassan is a British journalist, but he is now naturalized as an American citizen as well. So it's gone through that whole process.
As I have. I mean, the other way around, right? I'm American, but I'm a naturalized British citizen as well.
Yeah, so you are a full citizen of the UK as you are of
American,
of the United States. So that's the same for Mehdi, but he was repeatedly told
to go home, go away.
Yeah, we don't want you here. I mean, it was quite wild. So one of the other folks that spoke is a guy called Richard Black.
Right.
And I think he was back in 2017 when the kind of Proud Boys, they were doing there was a march for Trump, and he was one of the folks that had organised that march for Trump that was affiliated with the Proud Boys. Yeah. So that's the kind of folks that you've got now. Just putting this all back into context. That was one of the other marches where the Proud Boys were involved. Was at the University
of Virginia, with the kind of Jews will not replace us, that kind of thing. And of course, there was a girl that was killed. Yeah. As a counter protester, one of these guys drove the car into the crowd.
And it was to the groups like the Proud Boys that Donald Trump said, stand back and stand by.
I know.
So that's. That's kind of part of the
context of it all.
For us. That was our immediate context for going into this visit to Auschwitz, and that kind of the reflection on what place for history in our understanding of where we are in the world, and what place of history in helping shape then the decisions
our
that
response,
we make.
And how do we learn I mean, we always say, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. But yet we know history and we seem to be repeating it. So it's, why aren't we? And when you're faced with the kind of horror of Auschwitz, and one of the places they don't let you take pictures is where, of course, they shaved the heads of the women, and then they used the hair for various things, and there was just mounds of this hair, and they don't let you take pictures, just to show respect. And but faced with these mounds of glasses and mounds of shoes and mounds of suitcases, and this evidence of these people who were just destroyed, and the lady who. Our guide kept saying that, they're guessing 1.3 million people went through the Auschwitz camps, but those are only the people that were recorded. And 70% of the people who came to Auschwitz went straight to the gas chambers, right? And these suitcases and the hair and the glasses are just, this kind of stand witness to the fact that these people thought they were going to have a life, and they went straight to the gas chamber. And so we don't even know how many people actually went through Auschwitz. I mean, it's just horrendous.
That was when Birkenau was open.
Yes.
So that image of the trains coming in with all the cattle trucks behind, full of people, when they would come off. In the average was 70% of those who would go straight to the crematoria, to the gas chambers.
Gas chambers, and then the crematoria. Anyway, you're going through and kind of spending the day at Auschwitz, having then just listened to people who are kind of almost lauding the Nazis, and you kind of thought that was something we could all agree on, is that the Nazis were bad. And then clearly that's not something, and which gets into this whole kind of disinformation thing, and even our different understandings of Connor and when he lost his job. And we haven't fact-checked that. So we don't actually know, do we, whether he'd lost it earlier or he'd lost it in response to this, this program. I mean, that's just a really tiny example of where there's so much conflicting information, and we can't even agree. I don't know. And then
And that's, I mean, part of the. I mean, I wasn't fully aware of the sort of shifting that there had been, kind of culturally in this part of Poland, where Auschwitz-Birkenau had been. Obviously, I mean, if you've seen the film Schindler's List, you'd be aware that these ghettos were created and things like that, where folks were all gathered together, but and there's one scene, isn't there, in the film where Oskar Schindler takes over the house, the apartment of what was a wealthy Jewish family, and that becomes his apartment. But that kind of shifting of the population was also in the names of the places that were so. Auschwitz, as we know it, is a town Oswiecim.
Yes, the Polish version.
The Polish name of that town, and then the Germans
Germanized everything. Well, they were
all these names.
Well, Poland was part of their living space, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it wasn't just the Jews were confined to ghettos, but the Polish people were also moved out of all around Auschwitz. The native Polish population was shifted out, and it was replaced by Germans.
Because when we were driving in, I remember we had some conversation like about the present day. I wonder what it would be like living just in such close proximity
to the camp.
And so, of course, that goes through your mind. You know, what were people thinking at the time? But of course, they'd weren't there.
They'd been cleared out.
They had been moved out of the area. And the SS had just taken control over things. And the other thing that really kind of has struck home from, well, obviously we've been doing a bit of reading, further reading. I mean, this is a topic we've read quite a bit about over the years, but...
got a few more books.
We got a few more books, as is our wont. Was the role of corporations and business in what was going on here. So a huge factory, well, I mean, there's the whole Oskar Schindler factory and that kind of thing, but much bigger than that was a huge factory that was being built by I.G. Farben.
Right.
And with the understanding that the workforce was going to be coming...
slave labor.
Yeah, for the building of the factory at least. I think the intention was that this slave labor from the camps would also be used it's a chemicals company in the making of, in fact, it's the company that made Zyklon B.
Yeah, right.
Of course, but because the workforce was so emaciated, weak, that they weren't able to. So a lot of folks that were moved in from Germany, Austria, other parts to actually work there, but the factory was built by the slave labor. So some of the directors of that company were tried afterwards, because of their involvement, because they fully understood what was going on, and where this labor was coming from, but they saw it as good business, I guess. Right.
Well, as long as they were making a profit, I guess.
Yeah. Capitalism. The market decides all of that stuff. Oh,
gosh.
Whew. Yeah. So, but you see that interplay between kind of corporate interests, business interests,
and the government.
Yeah. And then the use of
well, that's a hallmark of fascism, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And well, it's when we look at some of the things that are going on in the world today, and some of the decisions that are being made at kind of corporate level, which are impacting people's lives in a negative way. Maybe not as extreme as what we had witnessed in our memory of what happened there, but the same kind of principles at play. Lack of understanding of humanity, really. Or
not caring, because money's more important. I mean, I feel like that's where we are a lot of the time today, isn't it? We don't care as long as we don't see it, because money's more important, right? I think that's. So if the suffering is right in your face, then it's. But if it's at a distance, then it's pretty easy to ignore it. And life is busy, and if you're in the corporations and you're making lots of money, then that's your focus.
And that happens all the time, and that's part of when manufacturing moves to places where the wages are the lowest, and maybe the conditions are not the best.
Yeah.
Well, that's all. Of course, that's all out of sight, out of mind for most consumers. But that's what's going on. Yeah.
Which brings us back to our question: kind of, what kind of world do we want to be helping to create in our own kind of small corner, right? How do you, because you're aware of all of these things, and or you're aware of some of them, and some of it you don't know how much you don't know, right?
Yeah,
it's like The Good Place, isn't it? There's so many compromises you make in every choice that you make, and it's hard to make ones that aren't hurting anybody.
Yep.
So in that kind of a world, which is the kind of world that we have, how do we create a kind world? How do we, And
that's, I suppose, come as no surprise to anyone watching this that we are not business oriented.
No, definitely not.
So you mentioned earlier that you're a teacher. I'm a minister in the Church of Scotland. So our kind of outlooks are particularly thinking about kind of building community, but building people up. Yeah, helping people to become more of who they can be in some ways. So that, I suppose, that shapes part of who we are and what our outlook is on the world.
Which is kind of the reason for trying out this podcast idea. Just thinking about adding to the conversation. And I know there are loads of people that are thinking about how do we, with everything that's happening in the States, how do we help that situation with everything that's happening in Gaza? Is there anything, what can we do to help that situation? I mean, obviously Ukraine, there's so many places around the world that, but I guess just wanting to add to the voices, and specifically asking for us to think about things in terms of kindness. How do we create a kinder world? And what does that look like? So there'll be some disagreements over what a kind world looks like. So just...
Yeah. And it's part of really for us, helping us think through some of these things. As you were saying earlier, life gets very busy.
It does, yeah.
And so some being kind of intentional in this current time when there's so much change about, there's an awful lot that is divisive in the rhetoric, and that's across Europe. It was noticeable in both the place, so in our visit to Oskar Schindler's factory and visit to Auschwitz-Birkenau, that both of the guides that we had made comments along the lines of, let me show you this. So
I'll prove it to you.
Yeah, so that you'll believe.
Yes, I'll prove it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, over and over.
Repeatedly they were saying that. Obviously, they were aware that there's a growing movement of folks that are denying, like this Connor.
Or downplaying.
Downplaying. Oh, maybe there was a little bit of to the Jewish
but not
people,
really.
But not really.
Yeah.
Nothing that important. So they were having to kind of defend their role. And you remember back in 2019, we visited Dachau concentration camp.
Yeah.
And there, at the end of the tour, I remember asking the guide, what do you think about, because at that point the AfD, the kind of far-right German party, was just starting to, in the polls, was just starting to get some traction.
Maybe kind of 10%, I think they were at.
Yes, I think it was something like that.
And she was in tears.
Yeah.
Talking about how they, part of the German school curriculum is to go and visit concentration camps, and so that the young people are aware of what happened, and that's part of this movement, to make sure it never happens again. And she was saying, I don't know what else we can do, because there are some people who are embracing the ideas that would allow it to happen again. And she was very, very, and you could understand.
Yeah.
She was very, very distressed by that.
So that's certainly a kind of part of our motivation is for our own sakes, is to talk through some of this and what does this mean. And, there's that Godwin's law, the lawyer, I can't remember what his first name was, but he's the one that first made the comment about any internet conversation will eventually end up talking about Hitler.
Oh, right. So we're just going to start there.
Yeah, we start there, and then we go on from that point. Cut to the chase right there. But it's because that's what's kind of motivated us to think about this, and not just let that be a visit, a moment when we spend some time there, and then you just move on and you get into all these other things. But really to reflect, well, what kind of world are we trying to live in? Are we trying to create? Are we trying to encourage others to be a part of? And certainly for me as a minister in the church, the kind of faith as a part of that is tied in, and your faith in God, your faith in humanity is challenged by a visit to somewhere like Auschwitz-Birkenau.
It is, yeah.
Your faith in goodness, in kindness, is challenged.
Yes. There's this huge amounts of evil. And then there were also people who, in the midst of that evil, the first thing that we did was go visit Oskar Schindler's factory. And of course, that was we were talking about it afterwards, because he obviously went in with the idea of taking advantage. And he kind of bought out the Jewish investors for kind of pennies on the Reichsmark or whatever. And he clearly was planning on making a huge bundle of money using essentially slave labor, but yet somehow his humanity was touched, and he ended up saving about 1,200 people. So even in the midst of the kind of the horror, you do have people who are then kind. And so then the question is, how do we get more people to be the Oskar Schindlers? How do we? They
shouldn't be the exception to the rule.
It
should be the other way around.
But they are the exception to the rule. That's the thing, is that most people just head down, do their job, get along. It's kind of hard to stick your head up over the parapet, isn't it? So I guess that's what this is about, is trying to think, how do we, in our own lives and in the wider sphere, but especially in this kind of atmosphere where we just don't talk to people who aren't like us and who don't believe the way we do, and then but then that just shuts down any hope of kindness, doesn't it? And it is really hard. As an American who definitely didn't vote for Donald Trump, it's really, when you think about people who did, and there are people I love who did, what does kindness look like? For me as an American, that's a big one. The whole situation in Gaza, it's just horrendous what's happening to the Palestinians. But yet, of course, we've just been to Auschwitz, and we know that historically the Jewish people have been killed and discriminated against and victimized. So you some of the fear that's there is definitely understandable. But then what is the role of kindness in that situation? How do we, and those are just two of the kind of big things that are happening.
Well, we're not going to
solve the world's problems in our little dining room.
No, but it is that. That's what we're wanting to
talk about. Or even
maybe,
just to get people to think about.
Yeah.
Or help us to think about.
Mm-hmm. So the intention is to try this and we're going to try and do it weekly, and take a kind of bigger topic as a kind of a main theme, and then maybe have a couple of other smaller things that we'll talk about. But that's the kind of our intent and our hope for.
So if you wanted just the big topic, you could just go for the first 20 minutes and then not and not bother with the two other smaller topical things.
Indeed. But that's probably where the fun's going to be at.
Probably, so, not decent.
So I think that's probably enough by way of introduction. Why we're intending
we can
to
both
do
be a
this.
bit long-winded, I think.
It is in the nature, indeed. So we'll take a wee break, and then we'll maybe come back with a couple of other topics.
Okay. Sounds good. So we thought we'd take as our next topic Trump's visit to Scotland, since we were just talking about the fact that I'm American and not a Trump voter.
And we live in Aberdeen.
Right.
So of all the places where Trump comes when he comes to Scotland, it's either Ayrshire, Turnberry, or it's
here.
Aberdeen, because he has golf clubs in both places.
So, of course, we weren't here to be able to come and protest. We were in Poland, but our two youngest kids did go to the protest.
Some very creative signs of the protest.
With some very Scottish insults.
Yeah.
A friend of mine messaged me from the States that Scotland was doing a good job. I suspect I have other people I know in the States that wouldn't be quite as appreciative of Scotland's response to Trump.
Oh, man. So amongst, and of course this is taking place amongst all of the furore that's going on around the Epstein files and the
pretty clear cover-up.
There's something very dubious going on there that makes Watergate look like a wee ball game.
Walk in the park.
Yeah, exactly. So that was all happening, and then you get these little details that just show the craziness of it. So there was a video that somehow somebody got who was obviously looking on while he was golfing. While he's golfing, that clearly shows.
Let's just chuck that ball down there for him to hit. Yeah,
his caddy, the coordination of,
and it was well practiced, wasn't it?
Yeah,
he knew what he was
doing. Instead of the ball being in the bunker, the caddy just tosses the ball surreptitiously, but not surreptitiously enough for the cameras not to catch it, down for Trump to. And it's such a little thing, isn't it? But when you are willing to cheat
at something so silly.
Simple,
so silly.
It's
and he's so proud of everything, all the tournaments he wins.
Yeah,
and of course, no one. He's the most powerful man in the world. No one's willing to say anything. So he just gets away with it, which is kind of the story of his life, hasn't it, Ben? Yes, I think that's one of the things that I was thinking about was, of course, historically presidents put all of their assets, either sell them or they put them in a blind trust. But of course, Trump hasn't done that. So he, on the American taxpayers' dime, and then on the the British taxpayers' dime for the policing and was over here. We had some meetings, but he was essentially over here to open one of his golf courses.
New one here in Aberdeen. Yeah.
Yeah. which is just so frustrating when you know what's just happened with the big beautiful bill in the States and everything that's going to negatively affect financially. And then you have someone who, I think I read 40% of his net worth he has accumulated just since he became president again because of the huge amounts of corruption and grift. And speaking of the close connection between business and corporate interests and kind of these kind of big bribes that we're paying and the cryptocurrency and all of that. So this fabulously wealthy man is on our dime coming to open his golf course. It's pretty frustrating and doesn't feel particularly kind, which I think is one of my objections to Trump has always been is he is manifestly an unkind person. There just isn't any part of him that cares about people other than himself, which is funny. I was talking to someone I know in the States who is a Trump voter, and he was just convinced that Trump cares about America, which he just so manifestly cares about nothing but himself.
Yep.
Right? And there just is not even a smidgen of kindness in him.
To have kindness, you need to have empathy. You need to have compassion. All these things that are about putting yourself in the shoes of another. And
no,
there's none of that.
No, there's just none of that.
Just none of that. It's really a bit sad if it wasn't so deeply troubling because he's been given all this authority and power over the whole world.
Yeah.
It's scary.
And our kids' futures, you know.
Generations to come worrying about this moment.
So
so that's, I know, it's, the other, you're mentioning about how, because a lot of folks will say, but all politicians are like this. All politicians will enrich themselves. And there is some truth in it, in that a lot of politicians, once they leave politics,
on the speaker circuit, become they write their books or and they make a lot of money. I mean, maybe I guess like Barack Obama had written a few books before, a couple of books
before he came in, but that's normally and that's certainly like with prime ministers here in the UK. That's usually where they'll make money.
It's not usually hawking Bibles while you're president, is it?
No, or cryptocurrency.
I know.
Or watches, or phones,
I know.
or a couple of million to bribe in order, or in fact a Boeing 747.
Yes, that's going to be refit to the tune of almost $1 billion. Yeah.
Yeah, absurd. So
and corrupt.
Jimmy Carter, when he became president in 1976.
Famously,
he was a peanut farmer, and he sold his farm so that there would be no question of the ethics of running a business while he was the president.
Jimmy Carter and Donald Trump are kind of polar opposites, aren't they, in terms of... They are
not peanuts
morale.
In a pod.
No, that's so bad.
No.
That's so bad.
Well, there you go. They are not the same kind of people.
No.
And although they have both had a lot in later life to do with housing, you could not call it the same kind of thing.
No, definitely not.
Jimmy Carter building houses for folks in need.
For humanity, yeah.
And
Trump. Into his 90s.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Well, right up until his last year. Yeah. Indeed. Yeah, so Donald Trump and the connections to Scotland.
A little bit embarrassing.
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it?
As a kind of adopted Scot.
Indeed.
My kids would say I'm not Scottish, but...
Hey,
I love it here.
You've taken your oath and all of that.
I have.
Now a subject.
Yeah. Okay. And on that note, that was my little topic. So we'll maybe take a wee break and then
move I've got
on
another
to
one.
Peter's topic.
We're back.
Yeah.
And so my topic, just before we went away on holiday, we went to the cinema to see the new Superman movie, which I think is just called Superman.
I think it is just Superman, yeah. The kids wanted to see it because they'd heard that MAGA hates it, which made them want to see it.
MAGA being Make America Great Again, Donald Trump's movement.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I went into the cinema not knowing anything about that. I mean, obviously know the Superman story and from way back. Maybe we'll come back to that in a minute. But didn't know anything about the film. No. Who was the director? Who was acting? In fact, I can't even. Which is
unusual for you.
Yeah,
to be
I'm
fair.
a bit of a film bod, but that's it just sort of passed me by that there's a new one coming. So I think that was probably quite a good way to go into it. There were some surprising things I was not expecting.
I liked the dog.
Yeah. Crypto? Was the dog called Crypto? I think, the dog does appear in the comic strips.
Yeah.
But I was not expecting that either. So that was kind of a bit of fun there. So Superman, do you know when Superman first started?
It wasn't in the 40s.
It was
response, or was it in the 50s?
1932,
oh, wow.
33. So 32, the two folks that created Superman first met. Mm-hmm. And I think it was either high school or college or something like that afterwards. And Jerry Siegel, it was, and Joe Shuster, I think, was the guy who did the artwork. Uh-huh. And so they came out with a first story, I think in 1933, which was something like...
earlier than I expected.
And quite a different story, but it's using Superman, that title. And then the kind of Superman as we know it is 1938, the first comic came out. So... Certainly, just all in this era of what we've just been talking about going on there. And both of them were from Jewish immigrants. Yeah, their parents had come over to the States.
So it was a definite response to what was happening in Germany, one would assume, or that would have been... Certainly was part of their background anyway.
Yeah, and it was definitely part of their background. And... So I suppose the kind of what's interesting about the new film that's out is just how much it's playing into the whole debate about immigration that is going on at the moment, and I wasn't expecting that at all.
Superman, because he was an immigrant to the world, right? Not even just from one country to another. He was an immigrant to Earth.
Yes. And
then, so we weren't going to trust him. Lex Luthor didn't trust him.
The arch enemy of Superman. So that's kind of the back. The story that's going on in the background is this question over, and then how people in the rest of the world are being treated. So there's that kind of all going on in the background of the story.
Well, it certainly wasn't subtle in its references.
It was not subtle.
No, the kind of Donald Trump and the Elon Musk characters were very obvious, weren't they? Yeah. Once you watch, no spoilers, but if you go and see it, you'll twig right away.
Yeah, what is going on there? Mm-hmm. So that reaction is, I suppose, understandable from Marga's side of things. Yeah. They're trying to push this narrative of the other, of trying to blame the other for everything. And here's a...
Well, I don't know that MAGA's doing that, right? I think MAGA is being led to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I've always been wondered about the whole idea of a Superman is Friedrich Nietzsche, the Übermensch, is this kind of seeing the kind of evolution of man into some kind of better being, an ultimate kind of version that you're aspiring to be, which
kind of has unfortunate.
Well, that's what I was going to come
with
on
the
to.
Aryan race.
So that's where
unfortunate.
They adopted that, and then they also were talking about those who were under. So you have
who weren't human, who weren't really humans.
Yeah. So that, that was not Nietzsche. That's not where he was coming from, and he deplored anti-Semitism and what Nazism was trying to do.
Well, quite often people's words are taken and used in ways that they never intended, speaking as Christians.
Yeah, exactly.
I find it super distressing the way Jesus has been co-opted by parts of American Christianity, when, oh my goodness, Jesus would have been flipping all of those tables. He certainly wouldn't be sitting down at any table Trump was laying.
Or if he was, he would be using that opportunity to
challenge and to advocate for the least of these, right? Which is who is going to be hurt by what's happening.
Rather than trying to find out how you can accumulate more power by cozying up to the powerful. Mm-hmm. And that's so Superman in some ways. There's a sort of interesting interplay going on with Superman because of the Superman, the cape and everything, and then Clark Kent in the
glasses,
the ordinary guys. But this kind of interplay between who is the immigrant and how does the immigrant need to hide who they really are in order to become a part of the community
and be accepted
within the community. So who is the real kind of, because Superman is in kind of American mythology. I mean, the whole point was that this is a totem of what America stands
and goodness
for.
And democracy and
the comics that did run through the 40s during the war, Superman is fighting the fascists and the Nazis. That's what he's doing. Yeah. So and yet that has now been kind of twisted around. There was I mean, you've got to give the White House credit for their comms team in jumping on anything that seems to come up and trying to turn it all around to support of Donald Trump. So they had a meme of Donald Trump as Superman, which
is so ironic.
Oh yeah, it's just dripping with irony there, akin to Ronald Reagan using Bruce Springsteen's "Born in the USA" in his campaigning. When Born in the USA is an anthem about the horrors of the Vietnam War and how Americans were treated when they came back from Vietnam and all of that stuff. And yet it was being just a rallying cry for how we're wonderful.
How great we are. Yeah.
Yeah. So that
not the intention.
Yeah. That going on there. So I thought it was.
It's well worth the watch. Film.
Yeah. I mean, it challenges you, and it's more safe for families than watching some of the latest episodes of South Park.
Yes,
although which also
to be fair, that was very funny.
Very funny, but they don't hang about in the kind of nuances of metaphor either.
No,
both of these are pretty upfront in. It's not allegory. It's just flat out. Just here we are. This is where we're at. What kind of world, huh? I think that's probably enough, right?
Probably is.
Reflections on things from this past week or two, and we'll see what we come up with next week. Indeed. All right. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.